Okay,
Okay.
so let's talk about breakfast at first. And I really want you to sell me on this, actually. I still do coffee in the morning. In my
Hmm.
coffee, I normally do, let's see, what would I normally do? I normally do 3 cups of coffee in the morning. So it's kind of a 20 ounce, 24 ounce kind of mug. It's mostly full. I will blend it with, I do just less than a tablespoon of butter. I do MCT oil as well. And I've also learned that salt is really great in there. For
Yeah.
me, it cuts the bitterness, and I really enjoy that. You went through the process of eliminating coffee. I feel like I'm kind of in a neutral place with it. Like I feel like I don't really need it. I feel alert and awake when I wake up pretty naturally at 5 in the morning, pretty much every day. Anyway, I somewhat enjoy it, but sell me on the no coffee thing. Should
Wait,
I
wait, all
fully
right, I'll
eliminate coffee?
I'll start with the coffee thing and then I'll go into the food. So I did coffee just like you, and I would have 2 cups in the morning, and then I would have one at in the morning. To me meant 6, 7 o'clock in the morning because I'm an early riser. I get up at sunrise. I would do the 2 cups, and then I was ready to get on my bike, right? Do my bike ride, and then around 12 o'clock noon, I would always have another cup just to just to get going. And I did an experiment. I said, I'm going to try to take myself off of coffee. I always ground my own beans. I did not use the Keurig. We have a Keurig machine, but don't use it. So I would buy all different kinds of really cool beans. So I took decaffeinated beans using the water method, and I took the regular beans, and I did like 3/4 to 1/4. And over the month, I slowly switched out caffeinated beans with decaffeinated beans. I grind it. Then I used a French press. Okay, that's how I made my coffee. I just found it so much better, so much more fresh when I did my coffee. I was a good barista, man. I was a coffee connoisseur. When I went out, I wanted a good cup of coffee. We're on vacation, and they had the wonderful espresso machines, the big brass machine. I want the good stuff. Okay, I don't like cheap coffee. So I'm a snob. I was a coffee snob. So I knew how to grind my beans. I had a French press. I put a little filter in it, and I slowly ended up after 30 days just having decaffeinated coffee. Why did I do it that way? To avoid the headache. I don't know if I think this is pretty much everybody. When we drink coffee, okay, there's this thing in the brain called adenosine. And if you listen to the end of the word, adenosine, caffeine, it has a similar suffix. Adenosine, and then we have these receptors in our brain called adenosine receptors. And this adenosine kind of keeps you awake. Okay. When you drink coffee, the adenosine that's supposed to go into the adenosine receptors to keep you awake stay floating around, and the caffeine goes into the adenosine receptors instead. And that's where you get your boost of energy. All right. That's why caffeine is a stimulant. But as the caffeine wears off, this adenosine is still floating around, and it's looking for a place to dock, and it has nowhere to dock. And then you go through this, oh, I need another cup of coffee. So it's almost like we talk about the carbon sugar roller coaster. There's almost like an adenosine caffeine roller coaster for people who drink coffee. And if you don't fill those receptors with caffeine and the adenosine, they make more receptors as you drink more. It's looking for a place to dock. And if you go past 24 hours, going on to 48 hours, you're going to get a headache. And that's because caffeine constricts the little blood vessels in your brain. And that's why people who drink caffeine also have a higher blood pressure, because when you constrict your veins and arteries, the blood has a little harder time going through. So when you stop drinking coffee, those constricted arteries start to dilate. They start to open up again. And as they're opening up, they're pressing on your brain, and it hurts.
Mm,
That is the caffeine headache. And
interesting.
I would get horrible. I mean, like a drug addict. Like, I gotta get my coffee. Give me a caffeine pill. Give me something to get rid of this headache. And so I wanted to avoid that. So I slowly switched out the caffeinated beans with the decaffeinated beans. So my adenosine receptors, the vasoconstriction dilation, the whole thing, I did it over 30 days. I eased off of all of that. And I'm not going to say I didn't have a headache. I had a very mild headache from time to time. So that's how I got off of coffee. But then I missed I missed the ritual in the morning because the warm cup and the sipping and the waiting. And so I took hot water, I added a bunch of butter, and I just did the action, the motion. I replaced something with something else. And then eventually I just did a glass of water in the morning, which is what I do now. And I did this a year ago. So now I'm off of coffee. I've been off of coffee for a year and no headaches. And a lot of people talk about the drinking coffee so I can go to the bathroom. All right, nobody talks about this. And I was one of those people. I drink my 2 cups of coffee and like clockwork, up, off to the bathroom, right? And I move my bowel. Number two, move my bowels efficiently, just comes right out. And when you stop coffee, that stops happening. And I had to decide if I wanted to deal with that. And a lot of people, it's important to go to the bathroom at the same time every day. So when I quit, it didn't happen right away, but later in the day, I eventually moved my bowels. It just changed the timing, is all it did. And, I sleep better. Even though my last cup was 12 noon and I don't go to bed till 11 o'clock at night or 10 o'clock at night, I sleep more soundly. It's less interrupted and I just wake up refreshed. I jump out of bed. So anybody who wants to quit coffee, you have to want to try it, do an experiment, and N equals 1 experiment. If you want, you go back on it and drink it again.
There you go.
Right? What do you have to do? So that's where I was in my head. If this doesn't work, I'm going to go back on. Well, all the benefits are so wonderful. I don't want to go back on. I don't. And
Yeah.
I honestly don't miss it.
Okay. Okay. I appreciate that.
I miss the smell when people drink it. I'm like, that smells good.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, that was really helpful. And I'd love how you've emphasized so much in our other 2 episodes. Like, it's one thing to learn something, but the point of learning something is to apply it, put it in your life, and then make observations. Is this better or is this worse? Is this worth seeing out to the end? Or does this not work for me, even though it worked for John or worked for Casey or whatever? Like, so I love that. Always knowing that you can go back. I think I'll do another experiment and kind of cut it out and see if I end up missing it as much. So that is very, very helpful.